Hey guys, good morning. I'm Kate, an integrative nutrition health coach, and I recently realized that you may not even know that I have a coaching business, which is called KP Coaching, where my slogan is for the woman whose body has taken a beating from her mind. Today, that slogan is particularly relevant because we're here to talk about fat phobia. Before I go any further, just my usual disclaimer that anything I discuss here is for educational and informational purposes only and should not take the place of any advice that you may receive from your medical practitioner. Okay, so what is fat phobia? The Webster Merriam Dictionary definition is fat phobia is the fear and or hatred of fat bodies. And it's something that's used to perpetuate discrimination perpetuate negative stereotypes that extend discrimination against the majority of bodies in the United States. There are three different types of fat phobia. There is internalized or interpersonal fat phobia, or the hatred we feel towards ourselves if we inhabit a larger than average size body, or the fear of becoming fat if we inhabit a normal or smaller size body. There's intrapersonal fat phobia. That's discrimination that's experienced from others. Say, for example, the dirty looks people receive on airplanes when they request an additional seatbelt. Unsolicited advice people hear from perfect strangers in the supermarket that's disguised as helpful advice on what groceries they should be buying. Or as one woman said when she mentioned to her mother that she always felt hungry, her mother patted her stomach and said, "We can tell, dear." That's intrapersonal fat phobia. And then there's systemic fat phobia, the fat phobia that is rampant throughout our society. We experience it through the media, advertising campaigns, etc. The message is everywhere that fat is ugly, fat is bad. But here's a little tweak that I recently heard, that I learned, that changed the way I think about my own body. It is impossible to be fat. We can be strong, we can be smart, we can be kind, or appreciative, or spiritual, or athletic. We can even be mean, or ungrateful, or be a bully. These words are all descriptions of character traits or attributes we possess, ways that we can or cannot be. There are physical descriptors like strong or weak, fast or slow, athletic or clumsy. Those are all physical descriptors, and they refer to genetics, like I was born clumsy, and it's something I have to work with every day so I don't trip every time I set foot outside of my house. Or I was born with a body that has the capability of being much stronger than the average man. Others are born with a weaker constitution, and they're not capable of lifting as much weight as I can, and probably never will be able to, despite all the weightlifting they ever endeavor to do. These are physical descriptors, and they're things that we can be. The character traits, things like I can be grateful or ungrateful. I can be kind or mean. I can be helpful or unhelpful. I can be giving or selfish. These words are ways we describe our personalities or the type of person we are. Fat, however, is not something you can be. It's something you have. Like you have fingernails. You have fingernails, but you cannot be fingernails. You have freckles, but you cannot be freckles. You have fat, but you cannot be fat. It's a medical fact that we need fat on our bodies to survive. And historically, the more fat reserves we had, the better our survival rates. Thin people died quickly during famine. That's why there are statistically fewer thin people in certain parts of the world. Did you know that? Where certain climates required us to make it through long, hard winters when food was scarce. It was a benefit to you and your family if you stored fat more easily on your body, because it meant that you would still be alive come springtime. People who evolved from ancestors from these parts of the world are physically evolved to be genetically predisposed to store more fat. That's just the way it is. So if it's normal and natural and it genetically makes sense that one person might naturally store more fat on their body, eating an identical diet to her friend who is quote unquote naturally skinny, why then are we afraid of fat? Why is there such a thing as fat phobia? Why do we laugh at fat jokes? Why do we discuss banning fat marriage? Why do we love TV shows where one of the funniest things about the family is that they're all very fat? Why do we tune in weekly to a show that forces people to consume a dangerously low number of calories and forces those same people to exercise 6+ hours a day? A show that publicly humiliates them by making them remove their shirt and step on a scale weekly, having their weight loss or lack thereof nationally televised so we can all cheer them on in their pain and vomiting, or shake our heads when they don't lose anything and assume they did something wrong that week. Why do we do that? My conclusion, after all the research I did for this episode, is that in a country where we champion cheap, fake, horrible foods, we've been taught to fear and hate fat bodies because dun, dun, dun. Because a lot of people make a lot of money off of it. I mean, why else does anyone in this country do anything? We're not a culture of martyrs. Nope, we're a culture that values fast, cheap, instant gratification and capitalism. And while they shoulder a lot of the blame here, $6 billion worth of the blame to be precise, it's not just the diet industry. Nope, it's also the food industry, the people who create the actual food products that are so cheap and nutritionally void that socioeconomically lower class citizens are literally dying from eating these foods. It's also the politicians that enable the food industry by taking funding in exchange for allowing French fries and pizza to qualify as vegetables, for example. And then mandate that every public school offer French fries and pizza so many times per week so their products are bought by the schools. It's politicians that allow that to happen. It's also the advertising companies that use fear of fat to sell products. And since we are surrounded by all of these elements all the time, every day, day in, day out, again, it has become our American mindset. Fat phobia is so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize we're guilty of it half the time. So here are some examples of fat phobia that you might have witnessed or might have even perpetuated yourself. And please, if you find yourself sitting there thinking, oh shoot, I've done that, I've thought that, I've laughed at that too, don't feel bad. Please don't feel guilty. Somewhere along the way, someone planted the seed in your mind that fat is bad, fat is ugly, that thin is better, and that seed took root and was fostered by the majority of the messages and images you see and hear every day. And it's so deep inside you, it's just your mindset. It's the way you think. So there shouldn't be any guilt or blame associated with realizing that you have perpetuated fat phobia. There should only be noticing. And that's what I'm trying to do here, what I'm trying to accomplish. I want to help people notice the ways that their thinking or actions have made other people feel, so that we can raise a new generation of kids and people who are kinder and more accepting of others. Fat phobia is something that causes bullying and shaming, and it hurts a lot of people out there. And in the midst of all these incidences of violence against children in schools, I think it's really important to point out this one element of discrimination we show towards each other, since it relates to my workshop on intuitive eating. So anyhow, here are some examples of fat phobia. Say you see a quote-unquote skinny child eating a huge bowl of ice cream, and you think, that's adorable. She's chowing down, so cute. But you see a quote-unquote chubby child eating the same portion of ice cream and think poorly of her parent for encouraging her issues. Here's another example. You might have purchased a magazine because you were sold on the pictures of celebrities who've let their bodies go. You buy into the BMI scale. This is a big one. And hardly anybody, I learned this when I was doing the research for this episode. We allow our children to be publicly weighed at school, and we allow them to be publicly categorized, to have their health categorized by this formula, the BMI formula, that was actually invented in the 19th century, when we were still eating lead, by the way, by a mathematician who later said that using his scale, using his measurement as a way to measure fatness was a quote-unquote stupid idea. So here's another example. You have ever made the mental association between fat and lazy or unhealthy or dirty or stupid? Have you ever equated a fat woman to a farm animal, thinking or saying the word cow or pig or heifer? Have you ever thought a fat man more feminine because of his body shape? Have you ever watched a news piece on obesity in America, where they blur out the heads or faces of the fat bodies, and they talked about this epidemic we face or this problem we must solve in America? If you've ever watched one of those pieces and tisk-tisked along or agreed, yes, we must solve this problem before it's too late, then if you've done any of these things, then you have participated in fat phobia. And listen, people, skinny sells. It sells because we've been taught to fear being fat. And we have been taught to fear being fat because it's erroneously associated with ill health and a lack of personal responsibility and a moral failing. Weight loss is just a potential side effect of health. It's not guaranteed when we start incorporating more healthful habits into our lives. Weight loss should not and cannot be the goal of incorporating more healthy habits into our lives. And we should not be made to feel like failures if we have not experienced this potential side effect, which is weight loss. So if you have discovered today that you are, in fact, afraid of fat, then my hope for you is that today, starting today, you can start to notice. Notice when you're perpetuating this fear through your thoughts or behaviors. Notice when you're hating on your own body for the pure reason that you are afraid of becoming fat, or you hate the fat that already exists on your body. Maybe change the way you talk to others or think about others. Notice when you look at a fat person in line at the ice cream parlor and think, well, she wouldn't be so fat if she didn't eat that ice cream. You have no idea anything about that person. And who are you to presume anything about her life based on the fact that she's eating ice cream today? Who gave you the right to make any assumptions about someone based on their looks? Well, we all do it, right? So try to start noticing, try to start changing your thinking. Try to start noticing when television shows insert fat phobia into their storylines. Has anybody watched Jessica Jones, superhero show? If you have, you might remember the episode, I think it's either the first one or one of the earliest ones, where she's stalking the guy. I don't remember his name, but she sits outside his bar and she waits for him. And while she's waiting for him, she's looking into all the other apartment windows. And if you saw that episode, you might remember the moment that she sees a fat woman get on a treadmill for a few seconds. Then she really struggles and she gets off and grabs a hamburger. And Jessica Jones says, 2 minutes on a treadmill, 20 minutes on a burger. I mean, I noticed that, but I didn't stop and think and wonder why at the time until I did the research for this episode. And I remembered it. I remember thinking, that's a weird thing to include there. But do we stop and wonder, why is that scene written in there? Why is that what the writers chose to harp on? I mean, Jessica Jones is written as a mean, snarky, quick-witted woman with superpowers. She's also very thin and a raging alcoholic. So why have her verbally abuse a fat woman in the opening scene? Is it because, hey guys, thanks for joining. Is it because the writers know that in that one moment, viewers will conclude that while Jessica may be mean and snarky and drinks herself into oblivion, she's at least not lazy like this woman she's being mean and judgmental about? The show goes out of its way, the writers go out of their way, since this fat woman's behaviors contribute absolutely nothing to the narrative to be fat phobic. They go out of their way to be fat phobic, and the writers don't have to work very hard to spell out all the messages that are simultaneously conveyed to the viewer because of our deeply ingrained fat phobia. I mean, it's really just fascinating to me, and that's just a great illustration of it, and it's sad. So my hope here today is that I've illustrated what fat phobia is. I might have shown you where your fat phobia came from. And I hope I've illustrated that there's nothing to feel guilty about if you have fat phobia, but that it is something that we should actively work on noticing and changing in our society. Nothing but negativity can result from discrimination of any kind. And the fact that fat phobia, the fear and or hatred of fat bodies, is used to perpetuate discrimination is something that we as a society should work towards changing, in my opinion. The fact that fat phobia is used to make money for so many people is something that I think we need to observe and let change our purchasing habits. And the fact that fat phobia is something that perpetuates bullying and shaming of children and adults is something that we as a society need to work on today. So my advice to you is try to start noticing your own thoughts. Notice the words that come out of your mouth. Talk with your kids when you see together images on TV of fat people who are there for the express purpose of causing the viewer to make assumptions about their character. Tell your kids that fat is a physical feature. We all have different amounts of fat, and whether we have more or less doesn't say anything about who we are as people. And also, if I can urge anything as a health coach, practice love towards your own body and start noticing when you feel less than, or you feel ugly, or you feel ashamed or guilty or like a failure because of the amount of fat on your body. You're not bad because you have some fat on your tummy. You are not a failure because your thighs touch or you have cellulite on your saddlebags. You're not ugly because your arms sway when you wave goodbye to your kids in the morning. And you're not less than because you have squishy parts. In fact, your kids probably love hugging the squishy parts more. All bodies are beautiful, and whether or not you have a personal preference towards one body type or another, and there is a difference between preference and discrimination. Also try to notice where your preference comes from. Is it a natural born preference? Or is it from years of being told that thin is beautiful and muscles are masculine? I mean, my husband is just about one of the most masculine, heroic, strong, amazing men I've ever met. And he does not have abs of steel. He's still the most attractive man I've ever met, but I'm pretty sure he's never going to look like Chris Hemsworth. My sole purpose in starting my coaching business and trying to reach people through these videos is to help people stop hating themselves for the way they look, to help people feel better and feel more love and acceptance towards the body they inhabit. Because you only get one, right? And you only get one life. I want you to love and accept yourself the way you look today, and to feel happy and blessed that you get to walk the earth every day with the chance to go out and do good, to make a difference in somebody else's life. And I have a couple teachers on here who make a difference in people's lives every day. And I want to help people realize how and where and why they have been manipulated into believing anything less than the fact that your body is a gift from God and you are blessed to be alive and to have the opportunity to be here and feel love and practice gratitude, to feel thankful for all the good things you have and you get to do and the feelings that you get to feel. I mean, to me, happiness is the name of the game, and actively cultivating happiness and joy, to me, that's the whole reason we're here on earth. And fat phobia is just one of the ways that our happiness and joy are actively being robbed from us on a daily basis. Love yourself, learn to accept your body the way it is, and learn to accept others the way they are. The fact is, Fat phobia is a human rights issue. People are still people no matter what they look like, and they don't deserve to have their health issues ignored because their doctor takes one look at their body and makes a snap judgment without even examining them that all their problems can be solved by losing weight. When I was doing the research for this episode, I read so many comments about that, and that's really sad. And it turned out that once these people were discriminated against, once they found doctors that were accepting of the health at every size movement, they discovered that they really had life-endangering health issues that had nothing to do with their weight, but the first, second, third doctors they went to completely ignored the symptoms and just said, lose weight, that's how you'll get better. And they did not do their jobs. They should lose their license. I lost my place. Sorry, too much ad lib. So people don't deserve to be forced to get a doctor's note to be allowed to take up 2 seats on an airplane because the airline industry is trying to cram as many seats as possible for money-making purposes into the plane. I mean, those seats are uncomfortable to begin with for an average-sized person. I can't imagine. People don't deserve to be penalized or fetishized or treated badly because of their looks. And if you feel differently, then I strongly urge you to consider why. Anyhow, that's enough for today. I'm already 21 minutes. I hope that what I'm doing here in this workshop series is making a tiny ripple in the way people feel about themselves and treat others. And if you find that you're suffering from a deep hatred of your own body, or you just can't accept yourself the way you are, send me an email or send me a PM. Sorry, I have this hair that's in my face. Give me a call, or you can find all my contact information on my website, which is www.kpcoachingjupiter.com, or just search KP Coaching. Please, I want to help you find ways to love yourself a little more, because love is catching. Good health is catching. Lighting that light of love inside you, love for yourself and acceptance of yourself, can only be positive, and positivity spreads. Love spreads just as easily as hatred, and I'm here to help spread the love. So I could go on, but I want to be mindful of your time because you're all very busy people. So thank you for tuning in today, and please feel free. I encourage you to share my video with anyone you think might benefit from hearing what I have to say. Next week, I'll be talking about other words for diet, so we can start to see all the sneaky ways the diet industry is trying to camouflage their sales tactics, because now people are catching on to the fact that diets don't work, and so the diet industry needs to rename or disguise their products. So we need to learn about this so that we can continue to reject the diet mentality, so we can move forward with incorporating intuitive eating practices into our lives and give up dieting forever. So I did plan to talk about the science behind why diets don't work in the episode following next week. I think that would be the 21st. But that is spring break, and I'm going to be skiing. And while I was trying to really stick to my schedule, I think I'm just going to give myself the week off. So I may cover a little of that next week, but that can be a lot. So if you're interested in that, shoot me just Google it. There's so many studies out there. But anyway, I hope you can tune in next week. You might never have noticed how diets are disguised in marketing messages and in weight loss campaigns. They're really sneaky about it, and they're having to get sneakier. You might feel rather miffed at how you have been fooled. I might also talk about Weight Watchers and their new campaign that's directed towards children, but I haven't decided on that one yet either, because it's a really heated topic in the world of intuitive eaters right now, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to take that on yet or not, because I'm trying to keep these short. So until then, I hope you feel well, be well, and cultivate happiness and joy in your own life. Bye for now.